On December 2, 2001, the seventh largest company in the United States simply collapsed. In a matter of hours, $63 billion in assets were wiped from the ledger. 4,000 employees lost their jobs immediately. Because their retirement accounts were heavily invested in company stock, 15,000 workers also lost their entire life savings and pensions, and were sent home without a dime of severance. How did a corporate giant, lauded by Wall Street for years, hide massive systemic failure in plain sight? To find out, we have to look back to the 1990s. Founder Kenneth Lay and his new hire, Jeffrey Skilling, took a stable, predictable natural gas pipeline business and turned it into an aggressive financial trading firm. Instead of moving physical energy through pipes, they began trading abstract commodities and derivatives. Moving numbers on a screen rather than gas through a valve created a highly opaque environment where reality could easily be manipulated. The tool they used to manipulate that reality was an accounting method called mark-to-market. Skilling successfully lobbied the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, which regulates financial markets, to grant Enron special approval to use this method. This diagram shows how a normal business operates. If you sign a 10-year contract, traditional accounting requires recording the revenue slowly over time, year by year, as the money comes in. Mark-to-market works entirely differently. Enron estimated 20 years of projected hypothetical profits and recorded that massive figure as income on the exact day it was signed. This inflated their reported revenue to dizzying heights, making the stock price soar. But those were just numbers on paper. If a deal went bad in year 2, they didn't adjust the books. And crucially, those paper profits didn't generate any actual cash to pay their real-world bills. To keep the illusion alive and generate enough cash to survive, Enron had to constantly sign new, increasingly desperate contracts just to book more phantom revenue. They were operating a corporate pyramid scheme. By the late 90s, reality was catching up. Disastrous physical investments, like water plants and foreign power stations, were hemorrhaging cash. The losses threatened to expose the mark-to-market mirage. Chief Financial Officer Andrew Fastow engineered a way to hide these massive losses by creating special purpose entities, or SPEs. An SPE is a subsidiary shell company created specifically to isolate financial risk from the parent corporation. Looking at this balance sheet, you can see Fastow's trick in action. When an Enron project failed and generated massive debt, those toxic assets were shoved off the main books and into these hidden shadow boxes with names like Raptor or Tuco, leaving the public balance sheet looking pristine. But there was a fatal structural flaw. These shadow entities were collateralized by Enron's own stock. The debt hiding only worked if Enron's share price kept climbing. Enron was insuring itself against bankruptcy using the artificially inflated value of its own shares. It was a completely circular financial loop. By the year 2000, the need for actual liquid cash became desperate. Enron's trading floor turned to a new target to extract it: California's newly deregulated electricity grid. Traders deployed market manipulation schemes with names like Death Star and Fat Boy. They lied to grid operators and intentionally routed power out of the state to create artificial energy shortages. Rolling blackouts plunged millions of California residents and local businesses into darkness. Meanwhile, Enron sold the electricity they had purposely withheld back to the state at surging, extortionate rates. Enron had crossed the line from aggressive corporate accounting to predatory market manipulation. They were deliberately destabilizing public infrastructure to generate the cash needed to fund their internal shell game. In mid-2001, the broader tech bubble burst. As the stock market cooled, Enron's share price finally began to slide. Without a soaring stock price to back them up, the debt-laden SPEs began to collapse. Inside the company, panic set in. Jeffrey Skilling abruptly resigned after just 6 months as CEO. Shortly after, Vice President Sharon Watkins sent a blunt memo to executives, warning of an imminent accounting implosion. On October 16th, the truth finally hit the public ledger. Enron reported a $618 million third-quarter loss, paired with a massive $1.2 billion reduction in shareholder equity. The market reaction was swift and brutal. The SEC launched a formal investigation. A proposed bailout merger with a rival energy company fell through, and credit rating agencies downgraded Enron's debt to junk status. Confidence was the only real asset Enron possessed. The moment Wall Street stopped believing the financial reports, the entire corporate structure disintegrated. When the dust settled in bankruptcy court, investors realized the terrifying scale of the deception. $74 billion in shareholder value had been entirely fictional. The fallout dragged down Enron's auditor, Arthur Andersen, one of the world's big 5 accounting firms. Caught shredding Enron documents to hide their complicity, the firm was forced to dissolve, costing 85,000 global employees their jobs. The architects of the fraud faced severe criminal consequences. Kenneth Lay, Jeffrey Skilling, and Andrew Fastow were all indicted and convicted of federal crimes, including fraud and conspiracy. In response to the crisis, Congress passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This federal law now forces corporate executives to personally certify the accuracy of their financial statements, holding them criminally liable for any fraud on their watch. Enron remains the ultimate corporate cautionary tale. When arrogant leadership is paired with opaque financial complexity, the result is the devastation of innocent lives.